UFC Fight Night Vegas 30 Gane versus Volkov is now in the rearview mirror. It's time to start looking forward. So this is every single fight to make after UFC Vegas 30 Gane versus Volkov. I've got all of the key players from that card on the screen right now, and you may notice there is an empty box next to all of them. I've got their next opponent hidden around the perimeter of the screen, and I'm going to slowly put them into position on this screen where they belong next to their opponent they got to take on next. And let's start with the main event. Ciryl Gane versus Alexander Volkov. Ciryl Gane goes out there, has a really good performance against Alexander Volkov. Some people said boring. I think it's very entertaining for a heavyweight fight, in all honesty. I think you have to kind of lower your standards for a 5-round heavyweight bout, and I think Ciryl Gane and Alexander Volkov had a great 5-round heavyweight bout, better than you'd usually see from heavyweights, because normally they're just completely gassed out, falling over themselves, and whoever ends up on top's just going to win that round. Either way, Ciryl Gane, Alexander Volkov. Ciryl Gane got the win. I think his next opponent should be Stipe Miocic. Both of these men need one more win before getting a title shot in the heavyweight division. There's a great little picture of Miocic there. I think each of these men need one more win in the heavyweight division before getting their title shot. Don't get me wrong, Alexander Volkov is a really good win, and it could, in another situation of the heavyweight division, be a title elimination bout, but we got a little bit of a logjam right now. We still haven't even had Ngannou versus Lewis announced for a date. And I'm sure there's going to be some time off after that one as well. You've got John Jones. He could just drop into the heavyweight division at any moment. So there's a lot of guys to get through. I think right now we need a little bit more time. In November, Ciryl Gane, Stipe Miocic, feature fight of a pay-per-view, main event of a fight night. I think it's a great matchup and both guys need it. Ciryl Gane needs one more win. Don't get me wrong, Volkov's a good win, but he's number 5. You typically don't get title shots for beating number 5 in the division, either way. Ciryl Gane needs one more win. I think it's Stipe Miocic, the number 1 guy in the heavyweight division, the only guy Ciryl Gane's got to beat to get further towards that title shot. And Stipe Miocic, on the other hand, I like Stipe. I know he wants his trilogy with Ngannou. I think he should fight one more time in the meantime. He got his rematch against Daniel Cormier, and fair play, it wasn't the UFC's original plan to make that rematch against Daniel Cormier, but he did get his title rematch against Daniel Cormier. I know he defended it against Cormier in the trilogy as well, but I feel like there's only so many title rematches you can give someone, and I think maybe it should just be one fight in the meantime. The winner of that one gets a title shot. Ciryl Gane versus Stipe Miocic. Great matchup, and for Stipe as well, he wants to test out how he's going to be at a higher weight because he's packing on some muscle to take on Francis Ngannou. Why not take on a guy like Ciryl Gane in the meantime? Realize how good you are at that weight. Maybe make some alterations if you need to how much muscle you want to put on before you go against Ngannou again. I think Stipe should use this Ciryl Gane fight as a real test as how he feels at a bit of a heavier weight in the division, and then go against Ngannou if he wins. Great matchup. I think it would be a pick-em fight, pretty evens in all honesty. I don't see Ciryl Gane being too much of a big favourite. Maybe he would be a slight one because of the recency bias of how good he's been looking recently against good contenders. I think Ciryl Gane versus Stipe Miocic, great fight to make. Let's make it next. It's a big fight as well, and if Ciryl Gane wins that one, you're really going to have some hype, especially if he manages to finish Stipe Miocic, because beating Alexander Volkov is good, don't get me wrong, but Ciryl Gane has not got the biggest of followings right now. People aren't really too big on him in the casual sphere of things. If he goes out there and gets a win over Stipe Miocic, you're going to build his profile, and that's going to build an inevitable title fight between him and Ngannou, if Ngannou does get past Derek Lewis next. Great matchup to make. Let's move on to the loser of the main event, Alexander Volkov. Great scrap with Ciryl Gane, however, he came up short, of course. I think his next, and honestly, Volkov doesn't come up short often. 6'7" guy over there. So he did come up short against Ciryl Gane. And I know people are going to say I'm giving him an easy matchup here. I think Alexander Volkov should take on Augusto Sakai now. I know Volkov would destroy him. It's not my fault the top 5 of the heavyweight division are so much better than the rest of these guys. Sergey Spivak is not even his name. Augusto Sakai is number 9 in the heavyweight division, I believe, right now, coming off a loss. Volkov's number 5 in the heavyweight division, coming off a loss. He'll probably move below Jairzinho Rozenstruik after this loss as well. So he's going to be number 6. Number 6 versus number 9, both guys coming off losses after win streaks before. I think they should make Alexander Volkov versus Sergey Spivak. I think it's a great one. I know Spivak's now on a 2-fight losing streak, but he's also a guy where you don't really want to waste your time investing in him and having him fight a whole bunch of new contenders. I think both of them should fight each other. I can't find another heavyweight coming off a loss. I was originally thinking maybe the loser of Blades versus Rosenstruik, but Volkov really didn't take too much damage. I assume he wants to get back in there this year because we've got another 6 months to go. And I don't think he wants to wait until the loser of Blades versus Rosenstruik. What if the loser gets KO'd? Does he have to wait another 6 months after that for their suspension to be over? I think if Volkov wants to stay active, there's a good, approachable, easy win for him against Augusto Sakai in the heavyweight division. Number 6 versus number 9. Make that fight happen next. I think is a good scrap. Moving on to the co-main event. Tanner Boser got a good win against Ovin St. Preux. I think Tanner Boser should take on Marcos Rodrigo de Lima, a guy coming off a win right now in the heavyweight division against Maurice Green. I think it's a great matchup for Tanner Boser, and I also feel like Tanner Boser hasn't really earned like a ranked opponent. I know that he did beat Ovin St. Preux, but Ovin St. Preux, it just looks half asleep out there nowadays. And before that, Tanner Boser lost to Andrei Arlovski. Typically, guys losing to Andrei Arlovski do not go on immediately after a win afterwards to get a top 15 opponent. I feel like Tanner Boser needs to take on one more heavyweight. It's a guy coming off a win. It's Marcos Rodrigo de Lima. I know it's not an amazing matchup, but it's not an amazing co-main event for Tanner Boser, so he hasn't really earned a top 15 opponent. I think he needs one more win. Ben Rothwell's probably going to be looking to get in there real soon. I think they have actually made, and I don't know this for sure, but I'm going to really guess based on the layout of the division. I reckon they've made Tom Aspinall versus Ben Rothwell. Aspinall says he's got a bout. Rothwell said he wants to take on a contender. Rothwell also said he wants to stay active after his last win against Fat Guy. Can't remember his name off the top of my head, in all honesty. But either way, Tanner Boser, Marcos Rodrigo de Lima, I think that should be made next. It's a great matchup. Winner of that one, then we can talk about going against some ranked opponents. Maybe Boser can earn his Andrei Arlovski rematch or something like that. Or maybe a Sergey Pavlovich matchup as well. There's a lot of things to do, but I think Tanner Boser needs one more win before we jump him back up. Ovin St. Preux, on the other hand, you know, it's just, I think it's time, you know? It's not even about, he's just not winning anymore. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. It's the way he's losing these fights. He's almost entirely dependent on his opponent completely messing the fuck up if he wants to get a win. Ovin St. Preux looks half asleep out there. He looks like he doesn't give a fuck. He has little to no fucking output every single fight. So it's not like he's losing, but he puts on a war every time. So let's keep him on because it's an amazing fight and he's such an amazing fighter and he does so good for fans and everyone loves him. Ovin St. Preux is boring as fuck and he just keeps losing. 2 in a row now. 1 to Jamal Hill, 1 to Tanner Boser. They're both not the best opponents. Both are now unranked. I think Jamal Hill's still barely ranked in the light heavyweight division, but he's gone on and lost to Paul Craig. So it's not like he's beaten future title contenders or anything like that, or losing to future title contenders, should I say. So I think Ovin St. Preux should go to the Bellator negotiation room, try and get a job there, because I don't think he belongs in the UFC anymore. He just doesn't look like he cares. He just sits back, accepts a beating. If he ends up on top of his opponent, he'll try and do something then. But until then, he has no interest in exchanging whatsoever. I think they should do him versus the Bellator negotiation team next. Moving on down the card, Timur Valiev got a draw against Raoni Barcelos, but his hand was raised. Really weird situation. You don't see it much in the UFC, but for this example, it actually happened. It was a weird situation. It was so clearly a draw, but for some reason, they handed Timur Valiev a win. It was weird. Either way, Timur Valiev, I think his next opponent should be Rafael Assunção. Rafael Assunção just pulled out of a bout with Kyler Phillips due to an injury. He's going to need some time off. Timur Valiev just got dropped twice and almost finished a ground and pound twice in the same fucking round against Raoni Barcelos in round 2. So he's going to need some time off. How was it not a 10-8 round? Either way, I think Timur Valiev, Rafael Assunção, Valiev's 30 years of age. He's going to need to be progressed up this division. He's kind of got a loss to Trevin Jones not too long ago in the division, but then again that got overturned to a no contest because of a failed drugs test from Trevin Jones, so that's a no contest now. So technically he's undefeated in the UFC, 2-0 recently, really good wins. Timur Valiev and Raoni Barcelos arguably deserve to be ranked anyway, so I feel like they should make Timur Valiev, Rafael Assunção. Whenever Rafael Assunção feels a little bit healthier, let's make that matchup happen. It shows that Rafael Assunção's willing to take on young contenders anyway, because he was willing to step in against Kyler Phillips. Let's make that versus Timur Valiev. Assunção Valiev, great matchup. As for the other guy that went to a draw in the feature fight against Timur Valiev, but technically got a loss on his record, I think he still deserves a top opponent because it was arguably a draw. That's what we all saw happen, if you have eyes. Other than that, Raoni Barcelos, I think, should take on Cody Stamann in the bantamweight division. Stamann is right now number 15. I feel like Valiev might take that number 15 spot come tomorrow or the day after, whenever they update the rankings. So Stamann will then be unranked in the bantamweight division. Why not make Raoni Barcelos versus Cody Stamann? It was a fight that was supposed to happen all the way back in March of 2020. UFC Columbus, if I'm not mistaken. That's actually a wild guess. I think the main event of that bout was also Garbrandt versus someone as well. But either way, great matchup. Raoni Barcelos, Cody Stamann. Two guys coming off losses. Both a little bit old, so I think you should match them up together. Winner stays on, takes on another up-and-comer, and then gets another jump back into those rankings. Raoni Barcelos versus Cody Stamann is a great matchup. Moving on to someone else on the card, Andre Fili. I know it ended in a no contest, but he arguably looked the best he's ever looked and had an amazing performance against Daniel Pineda and just completely annihilated him start to finish. I thought it would have been maybe the first 10-7 round in MMA. Really dominant performance by Andre Fili, just in another league to Daniel Pineda. If I was Pineda, I would not want that rematch. If I was Fili, I would not want that rematch, because I feel like Fili has already proved that he's better than Daniel Pineda by far. Let's make Andre Fili versus Omar Morales in the featherweight division. Morales is coming off a win right now. I think he's 3-1 in the UFC right now, so he's got a good record. Looking to jump up those rankings. He's in the top 30. Let's make Andre Fili versus Omar Morales. The winner of that one can start looking towards the bottom of those rankings in the top 15. I think that should be the matchup made next. Oh, plus, Omar Morales' performance against Giga Chikadze, judging by Cub Swanson's performance against Giga Chikadze, is not looking too bad. He went 3 rounds with Giga. He made it reasonably competitive, even though he did get tooled up quite a bit in some of those rounds. I think make Andre Fili versus Omar Morales. Great matchup. Winner of that one maybe can get, like, if they make Yusuf versus Dawodu, and then they can have the winner of this one versus that one. Or if someone else gets barely ranked in a division, like if, what's his name, Paddy Pimlet comes into the division, beats Alex Caceres or something like that, and still needs another name before you can jump him into the top 10. Let's make that one as well. Andre Fili, Omar Morales, great matchup. Moving on to someone else, Shavkat Rakhmonov, the Nomad, got a good win over Mikel Prazeres. I think his next opponent should be Tim, the Dirty Bird Means. You may have noticed Tim Means was missing. Out of all of the main card winners, Tim Means was not included. This is why I think it should be made. Shavkat Rakhmonov, Tim Means. Tim Means is a big welterweight, tall, rangy. Not something we saw from Mikel Prazeres. I think it could be an interesting style matchup against Shavkat Rakhmonov. Plus, Shavkat, I know, called for a top 15 opponent. You're 2-0 against 2 old veterans. I know Tim Means is yet another old veteran, but at least he's on a 3-fight winning streak. Prazeres was old, 2 years off, hasn't fought in ages. Oliveira, I believe, was coming off a loss at the time as well. Let's make him against someone who's on a win streak, looking better than ever. Tim Means, Shavkat Rakhmonov, winner of this one gets jumped up, maybe even takes the number 15 spot in the welterweight division, or just gets a shot against someone in that 10 to 15 range in the welterweight division. Rakhmonov versus Means, plus Tim Means. For a veteran, you offered it, dude. You said in your post-fight speech, if there's a young up-and-comer coming up, like any of the ones on this card right now, I'll take them on next. So let's make Shavkat Rakhmonov, Tim Means, the end of October, the start of November, on a fight night, in a feature fight. Let's make it happen. Great matchup in the welterweight division. Moving on to Renato Moicano. He had a great win over Jai Herbert. I think he should take on Ottoman Azaitar in that lightweight division. I think this is an amazing matchup, and I would love it to be made next. Renato Moicano coming off a win. Ottoman Azaitar coming off of a suspension for smuggling in a bag of potatoes to the UFC Fight Island Institute, which we all know wasn't potatoes. It was probably Hezbollah in the bag, let's be real. I think it should be Renato Moicano versus Ottoman Azaitar. You can't really put Azaitar just against a random name in the lightweight division right now, because he's got a bit of a following. He's also got a win streak as well. He's going to be an anticipated return as well because of all the controversy around his name recently. I think they should make Renato Moicano versus Ottoman Azaitar. It's a great matchup. Let's make it happen. and we're done. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.